All right, welcome back to the Sports Injury Central Pro Football Doc podcast. I know, I apologize. I've been MIA. It's actually Taylor's fault. No, it wasn't Taylor. It wasn't Doug.
Not this time, yeah.
It was me. Trip to London and another little left turn or U-turn or whatever you want to call it. We'll get into why I was MIA, but that's actually since I started doing random media stuff, and it started with a column that I wrote,
National Football Post.
Football Post.
I remember that. Yep.
I haven't missed a week, between the column and the podcast, and I was really, as Monday Morning MD was the column, and I would have 7 things, one for each day of the week. 7 was easy, always what we got right and wrong, and that's when we got our 95% stats. But I remember in the off season, I was like, during the season, it was like really easy to always find the topics. But in the off season, I was like, am I really going to find the topics? And honestly, it was super easy. Like all I did was go back through my Twitter and see what I tweeted on the previous week. And boom, there was always 7 topics.
Loads of content always,
There's
right?
loads of content. And that's been the same for this podcast here. So I apologize for the absence. I'll explain the absence in a second here after some breaking news. And this is some breaking news for Taylor and Doug too here. So let me see if I can find it here. Uh-oh. You know how social media unsavvy I am. I just had it here. It just came in on my notifications. So, my son does baseball, and he has a little he has a little Instagram thing now. I don't know how Kim allowed it, but here's the breaking news for you guys.
You have 24 hours.
So you've heard of the Ice Bucket Challenge. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to project well or not. Okay,
Thank you, Adrian, for nominating me for the USC Ice Bucket Challenge. I would like to nominate Nico, Sebastian Isudo, and the staff of Sports Injury Central.
Oh, he said the whole staff.
So that was this morning.
Yes. My little brother and sister, I've seen
hours.
it. Yeah, that means, yep.
So
Yep. 24
I'm
hours.
not chickening out. This all ties in. My son wanted to get him to nominate mom. Mom said, I did the last Ice Bucket Challenge. And he goes, well, I'll nominate Dad. Dad, I'll talk about my little medical issue where maybe Ice Bucket isn't the best thing for me right now.
Yep.
So it became a member of the staff at Sports Injury Central. So whether it's Taylor Smith, which he calls you, or Doug, or you can cajole Charlie, you guys have 24 hours to do the Ice Bucket Challenge. I think it's no big deal for Doug after his 45-minute.
Yeah, when he runs for 8 miles a day. Yeah.
He wants to cool off.
Yeah.
That'd be a no big deal.
I spot 3 times a week.
I knew it. 3 times a week.
All right.
I will do it. I'll do it. I'll do it on air. I'll say it.
Yes. 24 hours.
Yes.
For one of you guys to do the ice bath, the Ice Bucket Challenge, Sports Injury Central.
We're going to the park
staff
today, so might as well add a couple things to the back of the car.
There you go. You can nominate 3 people, etc.
My little brother and sister both did it, and they didn't nominate me. I'm glad Davis.
Okay,
Now you
can.
There you
You're
go.
invited.
Yes.
You can play in the game. So
there you go.
Actually, with this microphone, you probably can't see, but I've been wearing T-shirts because of this little scar. I told them I should have made it in the shape of a lightning bolt for Chargers, or
there you go,
or an S for Superman. And no, it was all good. I had a little. It wasn't heart disease. It's not hypertension. It wasn't coronary artery disease. It wasn't cholesterol related. A genetic factor with an aneurysm that required an open heart procedure. Look, I could have come back and done this podcast earlier. I mean, I missed probably a week or 2 because of that, but otherwise could have done this earlier, but I don't know. Just once you stop, it's like if you run every day or work out every day or every week and then you skip a week, it's just easier to skip a little bit. But we have the draft to talk about now.
Yes.
The NFL draft. And so we couldn't keep skipping and being a derelict. You know, once you start playing hooky, it's easy to play hooky. It's easy to backslide. So I apologize. I've been out a little bit, but all good, working away, etc. The only noticeable difference is I don't want to show off the
You got a little Under Armour, yeah, kind of like, yeah, kind of layer in the back, yeah.
the chest scar. I will say this: I've never. Okay, I'm going to paint me as a square. I've never taken hallucinogenics before, mushrooms, or I just never have.
Okay.
Not that I'm above or whatever, just the opportunity, whatever. I feel like I have now after my surgery. For 3 days there, I was seeing pink people and purple people and
little Smurfs,
vivid dreams of walls closing in and floors dropping out and walls back.
There you go.
Out, etc. But all good. The first 3 days I don't really remember. My wife's still mad at me.
For what?
Well, Doug's laughing.
Yeah.
He knows the deal.
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell the story. Or should we save it for Mother's Day podcast? Okay,
I think,
I can't help it. So
yeah.
This is a true story. So I was kind of out of it after the open heart procedure, the aneurysm for the first few days. And I guess I didn't really remember anyone for the first couple days. And so two of my friends come visit me and they're like, "Do you know who they are?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so just to be funny, instead of saying their names, I gave them their nicknames, Paco and Blue.
Mm.
And they're like, oh, they were like surprised and happy about it. Everyone was happy that I actually recognized someone because apparently I didn't before, except Kim. And she was like, I've been here for 3 days.
By your bedside.
By your bedside.
Yeah.
And looking at you saying, I'm your wife, Kim, and here's a picture of us coming in. You're in the hospital.
Wow.
Do you remember me? And you're like, no. It's like, well, I can't help it. I said, and then she goes, and you're a dirty dog. I said, what are you talking about? So for 3 days I've been here. You don't recognize me. You couldn't remember me as your wife or my name, but you recognize your friends. But in the meantime, I would lean over and kiss you and you would kiss me back, but you didn't even know who I was. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
that wasn't me there. Yeah.
I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. Deep down inside, I knew. No, I don't know.
You're no longer a square now, though. You took
It's all good.
Yeah.
all good. And we'll let Kim tell her version of it.
For sure.
If
It's
she
always
wants
more
to do the Mother's
entertaining
Day
version.
podcast.
Yeah.
The reason I know she doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can say this now. The reason why I've done the Mother's Day podcast with her is she's liked it, and it helps check the box as a Mother's Day gift.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So she can mouth off.
She gets to air out once a year.
once
Yeah,
a
it's
month.
good.
But
Yeah.
It was her to egg on my son to get me so he's getting you for the sports.
That's good. Yeah.
The Ice Bucket Challenge. Anyways, all right, draft on Thursday. Lots going on. Where do you want to start with the draft?
We'll have a list of a couple people. I mean, we've on the SICScore.com, we have about 10 to 12 articles, singular players, people with all kinds of issues. And there's a couple players. We'll go through a list, but we'll go through first a couple of players that you have some issues with. I guess the big one, he's a top 5 pick. You've have multiple Twitter tweets and stuff about him, is Abdul Carter, defensive end from Penn State.
Well, obviously, he seems to be the top defensive player in the draft and one of the top athletes. First of all, you got to understand, we're doing this from insider knowledge versus insider information.
We didn't go to the combine. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not go to the combines. And even if I did, and I probably could still get access to the medical examiner, it would be inappropriate to leak any information. That's like leaking a Wonderlic score. We don't deal in insider information. We don't deal in leaks. I can tell you that there are a number of people around the league that I still know quite well, who, be it doctors or athletic trainers, who know exactly what's going on. But I promise you, I don't call them to get insider information. I just don't think that's appropriate. And I would expect them, They probably would tell me, but with the understanding that I wouldn't tell the world. But as someone, when I was in the NFL, asked me, I wouldn't say. So we just deal on insider knowledge, not insider information. So I don't think I'm breaking any news for teams. I mean, teams should know. They sent their team doctors and their head athletic trainers and their medical staffs. They got exams and looked at MRIs. They know exactly what's happening with Abdul Carter. And in years past, we've panned some picks.
Tyree Wilson, that defensive end that the Raiders drafted. Yeah.
But, look, what happened in that draft 2 years ago? Tyree Wilson was talked about as the top defensive player, had Lisfranc foot issues, and Will Anderson did not. And what we said was, if Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson are even, you need to go with Will Anderson. If Tyree Wilson is superior, maybe you still can go with him as the top of the draft. And I remember Daniel Jeremiah, who we'll get on here eventually, properly projected CJ Stroud and then Will Anderson. Mm-hmm. And I remember who's our guy in Houston?
Seth Payne.
Seth Payne changed from Tyree Wilson to Will Anderson and has thanked me for it. And Tyree Wilson hasn't done much. Was it only because of the foot? I don't know. But Will Anderson certainly has done a lot. There are other examples. Look, when the Tennessee Titans
Jeffrey Simmons
drafted Jeffrey Simmons coming off the ACL, I didn't say it was a bad draft pick. I respect Mike Revel a lot. But what we said is they're basically stocking up for the future. They're saying, here he is, a late first rounder who's a top of the first round talent. We're okay if he's not 100% year one. So far, that's worked out for the Titans. So Tyree Wilson wasn't necessarily a bad pick for the Raiders, whatever they picked. Just if you had the choice of Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, you're better off with Will Anderson.
Right.
Tyree Wilson still may be the real deal. So let's talk about Abdul Carter. He's got shoulder issues and he's got foot issues, some sort of stress reaction, stress injury. The shoulder should work out to be okay, but based on exam.
So he played through that leading up to the championship games, and then they said that he was cleared going into the combine, and then they found a fracture during checkups in the combine.
Yeah, for the foot thing.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Well, everybody's cleared going into combines, right? I mean,
good news. Yeah.
I mean, everyone is cleared.
Right.
But as we said, he wasn't going to work out. There was all this, well, I'll work out later. I'll work out at the pro day. No, he wasn't going to work out. The concern is more for me on the foot than it is on the shoulder. The shoulder should be okay and fixable. Stress fractures are fixable with surgery, but the most common stress injury there is a fifth metatarsal Jones fracture, like wide receivers get all the time. When you get around the edge, you put a lot of pressure on that outside foot, and it can be bilateral. So that's something that you can deal with. But if he still has not needed or had surgery yet, if it is a real stress fracture, he needs surgery, it's going to cost him, lead up to the season and maybe part of the season, especially what edge rushers need to do. Now, if you run the risk of just playing through it and see if he can make it and it flares up again, it's going to cost him the season. So he's not draftable. It's just you have to factor in he's got something that might cost him part of or perhaps the first season until you deal with it. Part of or perhaps the first season. And all you do is, as a GM, is factor that in. I'm not saying he's not draftable, but I'm saying he's not clean. Now, if you had a Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson situation where there's someone equal to Abdul Carter, I think that guy goes ahead of Abdul Carter. But I don't think that's the case here.
I was going to tell you there isn't much this year. Like the next guy that they say is a defensive end is like the 12th or 13th ranked player out of the 100. So Carter's 1. So you're going to drop all the way from 1 to 12 just to get to next end. There's not a Will Anderson Wilson type.
I think if a team was worried enough about Abdul Carter
to go a different position,
go a different position,
right?
You wouldn't
go straight to D end or
straight to D end or D lineman like that. So we'll see. I still think he's going to go at the near the top because apparently he is head and shoulders above. But this is where you go to combines. I've been to over 20 of them on behalf of a team. You get an assessment and a real assessment of what it is. I've told my draft story before when we drafted Antonio Cromartie. We said, look, he doesn't pass the physical today because he's not ready from his ACL, but he will pass the physical. He will be able to play football this year, but don't expect his rookie season to be his best year. You know, first half of the rookie season, maybe a little bit of a wash. And to us at the time, the Chargers, we were, I think, if I remember correctly, late teens in the draft, and he was supposed to be a top 10 pick.
Mm-hmm.
There was value there, and they took him. And so at some point, look, if you get invited, it's almost nobody, including players that get ruled out from working out because of a heart issue, like Maurice Hurst. Almost nobody is, quote, undraftable. It's just where and when.
Right. What's the best value or so
value
forth. Yeah.
into the equation. At some point, it's always a value. It's not like, okay, even for quarterbacks, do you want this guy? Okay, as my second stringer for $1 million, I'll take him, but not for 10 million as my backup or 40 million as my starter, right? I mean, it's all an equation. So Abdul Carter's draftable, but he does have, I'll say, a yellow flag that will lead some teams to consider their options.
We look at like Jeremiah and other mock drafts, he's in the top 5. It's just like you said, there's nothing that can sway him, the injury, whatever. It's like you said, a rookie season. If you see like a sack number, maybe you go under a rookie season, but long term, you're not really worried about Abdul Carter.
You think the Giants are going quarterback at 3, or
I don't know. Or you got Tennessee's already going quarterback. Cam Ward was already said to go there. He was on playing Fortnite the other day, and they asked him what his number 1 running backs were, and he said Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. So you know he's going to the Titans, right? But no,
the betting odds there were crazy, like minus 2,000.
Yeah, it's like 225. It's like automatic now. Yeah. So no, that stuff like that you said, but I don't know. I mean, you got Shador, you got Giants saying they want a quarterback, but they signed Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. Right, those aren't really long-term solutions, right? So it's up for grabs, I'd say. I don't know.
But it's interesting how the Giants all of a sudden last minute are working out a lot of people. Is that all for subterfuge?
It's weird.
Trade, or is that all of a sudden a change of heart, or is that just their process?
Do you think some teams have just no idea what they're doing and they're just so overwhelmed by the process? Or that's wrong to say because they're professionals, maybe? I don't know.
I've heard some rumors, but I don't deal in rumors, you know, related to this Shador and some other teams and what they might do, but I'm not going to go down the rumor mill. But the number 1 pick for, if we're talking Shador, is place for him to land now is New Orleans, right? At 9.
Yeah, I want to talk before I guess we just go sidetrack. For me, we got to talk about Derek Carr. Do you think it's okay to, if it is the case that this is something that maybe they just knew about and they don't want to really, they just want, it just seems like it's kind of fake, but I don't want to say that. Could be a real shoulder injury, right? But
okay, here's what I always say.
Yeah.
If something on the outside doesn't make sense, and the Derek Carr situation does not make sense to the outside world, it does from the inside.
Okay.
We just don't have all the factors.
We don't have the information. Yeah.
First of all, we don't see an injury to Derek Carr's throwing shoulder last season.
2023 is when we found. Yeah.
2023, the previous year, he landed on the shoulder, and that was like an AC joint injury. And he returned and he played all of last season. Don't see that as something, oh my God, you might or might need surgery. And if he did need surgery for an AC joint, it's a pretty routine fix. Look, I've told you guys before, when we did exit physicals, if someone wasn't 100%, we'd say, boy, let's give it some time. And some of giving it time was, how long will the surgery take? If the surgery is, boom, no big deal, 4 weeks, you're good to go. 6 weeks, you're good to go. We might push it out, hoping that you can get better. If the surgery is a 6-month recovery, we're going to lobby to do it ASAP or not wait very long, because you don't want 6 months to turn into 7 or 8. Now it's leaking into training camp and next season. You want to go. So I used to always tell some players, okay, you want to see if it gets better? This is the days that we weren't in the playoffs. Okay, after Super Bowl, it's a check back in. You need to be 100%, or we need to talk about doing something.
Yeah.
So for Derek Carr, this quarterback throwing shoulder might need surgery, still deciding.
Might be out for the season.
It might be out for the season,
Right.
and it's March and April.
Right.
Okay, either the medical staff and the team physician totally botched this, which I don't believe.
Right.
I don't believe that they botched this. I believe that they know what's happening, but there's another side to the story.
Okay.
Is the other side to the story, what could it be? Could this be subterfuge for the draft and who they are and aren't taking? Maybe. Is this contractual related where he could play through, but he had something where he would, quote, fail a physical, and now he's injury guarantees and the capologist can weigh in as to what that means? Is this a way where they know they're already cutting ties and the Saints are agreeable to this because this pushes out the cap space and money and he pays injury and they're going to cut him?
Right.
I just can't believe that the Saints are hearing about it. We love Rap Sheet, had him on the show before, that it's news.
It's out of the blue. Shoulder injury, might not play now. Yeah.
That Rap Sheet is breaking news to Mickey Loomis. I just don't see that as the case. And now, why is the news coming out now? Is there something on the Saints side they're trying to get out? Is it something from Derek Carr or his agent side they're trying to get out? Don't know. So where does that really leave him? I just know that I don't think it's a surprise. I think the world has reacted with, oh, this makes Shedeur a landing spot.
Now Saints, like, they always needed a quarterback. Now
either Shedeur was always a landing spot there, or this doesn't change it. It's not going to be a surprise.
Like you said, we don't know all the facts.
And I don't see Shedeur going there. And part of it is just this. Mickey Loomis is not going to panic. He's been the GM there forever. He's not going to panic.
And Kellen Moore doesn't have a lot of say right now, right? He has say, but I'd say
and Kellen Moore, I like Kellen Moore.
You seem like a good coach, yeah.
First-time head coach.
Former QB too. I don't know if that
former QB, but just stylistically and whatever. I mean, Shedeur's a personality. Obviously, Dad's a personality. It's a lot to saddle a first-time head coach with. I don't know. I don't think Mickey Loomis is going to panic draft.
No, he
like
doesn't.
Some other. I better get my quarterback because we need one. And panic is the other thing. Is I don't think it's a surprise. Whatever Derek Carr's shoulder thing
surprise, like you said, surprise to us, not surprise
to the outside world, not to Mickey Loomis and the insiders on the team.
Right.
So I don't know. I honestly think if he lasts that long, I think he's going to go to Pittsburgh. I mean, the whole Aaron Rodgers thing is soured. And I think Mike Tomlin, he's an established head coach. He'll rule. I mean, he's not going to have a brash young quarterback outstage him. He's going to say, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the odds are, but I'd say almost Pittsburgh is more interesting.
Pittsburgh, yeah, that seems interesting, yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers, I mean.
What's going on there?
Either you want to play or you don't want to play. I like Aaron Rodgers, I've always said, but what's going on? I mean, I saw a poll. I don't know how good polls are, but I think most Steelers fans have soured on Aaron Rodgers by now because either he wants to come or he doesn't want to come.
Well, because you're saying openly, I'll play anywhere.
And you certainly have to decide before Thursday, don't you?
Yeah.
You can't let them be drafting and then say, here I am. Right.
And they kind of set up the team for him too. They got him a deep ball throw in Metcalf. Like, they have a run game. They have a good offensive line. So in theory, it would be perfect for him at his stage of his career. But there's, like you said, there's obviously something going on.
Well, they didn't get Devontae. No, just joking.
Yeah, that's the icebreaker or deal breaker. Yeah.
Maybe they don't have Taco Bells in Pittsburgh. I'm just joking. Sorry, Devontae. All right. Well,
I have one next one, Doc. So you were talking about Jeffrey Simmons, about someone that you can draft later. One that you have a little bit of issue with is prospect Deone Walker, defensive tackle from Kentucky. He's a guy that's on 30, 32. So it looks like he might, if he was healthier, go in the bottom half of the first round. Tell me your thoughts on his stress fracture in his back.
I don't like stress fractures in low backs. Spondylolysis. The reason why I don't like them is historically they don't heal. They can become asymptomatic, but they don't fully heal unless there's some sort of fusion or bigger surgery, which you don't want to have. Not that it's comparable, but remember Carson Wentz from high school had a back issue,
Yep.
and then with the Eagles had a stress low back issue
After the ACL.
after the
Yeah.
ACL,
Yep.
and ended up missing the rest of the season. There's a lot more stress on your low back spondy. I mean, when I've been at the combines, we used to take routine x-rays to make sure offensive linemen who have to arch their back and pass set, and to some extent defensive linemen, didn't have a spondy with a routine x-ray, because you could have one and not have any symptoms.
Which is kind of
Yes.
him. Yeah, him was, I think he said he happened earlier in the season last year and he played through it, and then
Yes, you can play through.
Yeah.
But it's also a little bit of a ticking situation.
Okay.
And the reason why I personally don't like it is if it's going south, other than rest, there's no good solution. Even surgery isn't a great solution, because doing some sort of fusion and you lose motion in your low back, that's a big deal. So I don't like injuries that don't have a lot of solutions. And this one, if it goes south, and I'm not saying it will, but if it goes south, there's not a lot of solutions. So I mean, teams will have grip on it. He'll have a bone scan and x-rays and CT scan and MRI, and they'll know the extent of the spondy and how risky it is. But I think that one has some risk. And unlike Jeffrey Simmons, assuming that the surgery was good and he didn't have a lot of arthritis or cartilage damage, he was going to recover.
ACL was a much reliable recovery than
this
back.
one is one of those, yes, you can have it and play through and have no issues. But once you do have issues, there is a great, easy solution. So those are ones that I think are careful, right? I mean, if look at Abdul Carter. What I'm saying is, let's say his stress fracture in his foot has a problem, and let's say he has surgery on it. No, I don't think he's coming back in 8 weeks, but certainly in 8 months he's going to. So even if you said, look, I think you could make a case to draft Abdul Carter in the top whatever, even the top 10, top 5, if you said he's going to miss all his rookie season, but then be fine.
So he's losing just 1 year of a maybe 10, 12, whatever. Yeah,
So that's, to me, less risky, Abdul Carter, than potentially this Walker kid. I'm not destroying anyone's draft dreams. The teams already know what he has. They've examined him.
They found this through the checks at the combine. Yeah.
It reminds me of a story. They talk about it. Like people, I remember at one combine when Jalen Smith,
Cowboys drafted Notre Dame linebacker. Yeah.
And a guy from the New York Post asked him. So he had a press conference at the combines. So Dr. Chao, former team physician, says that you've got a nerve issue and this, that, the other, and he denied it. And I got some people in media said, man, I cost him millions of dollars. I'm like, I didn't cost him a dime. All 32 teams got to see him. If he had a foot drop, which later was determined
he did, yeah,
they would see it at the combine.
It's visual. You can see that stuff
on exam.
Yes, yeah.
They don't need the information from me. Look, when I was a team doctor, I never read what other people said. I knew because I got an exam.
You're seeing it. Yeah.
I might have broke the news to the public world, but I certainly didn't cost the kid any draft position. So same to this kid from Kentucky. I'm not costing him any draft position. First of all, it's not a guarantee that he falls. Second of all, every team in the league knows what he has. It's not news for them to hear it from me. So I'm not destroying anybody's dreams.
You're calming what's already out there already.
I'm just doing analysis to help the world in general, but teams know. Look, just like I said about Derek Carr, the team already knows what he has. It's not rap sheet throwing a hand grenade into the thing. Maybe to the PR side, there's a hand grenade, but
they don't want that news out there. But
not to the factual side.
Right.
Anyways, so hopefully I wish him well. Hopefully the spondy is not a spondy or it's something different and the teams know it and he gets drafted high, but I have my worries about him.
Next one I had, you've already commented multiple times, him is cornerback from Michigan, Will Johnson. He had a knee injury early in his career, shoulder, and the big one you're worried about is his turf toe that affected him in his last year at Michigan. He injured it October, cut his season short. The worry for him though is he hasn't ran yet through all these pro day and combine stuff.
Look, I'm not trying to get on the analysis side, but his speed is what we worry about. He's got good size.
He's very lanky. You're worried about if he's fast enough. Recovery speed.
And turf toe is pretty important for push off. And so when you're switching from a back pedal to coming up forward, or you're accelerating or cutting, that's a big deal. The fact that he hasn't even run in a straight line or in a 40 yet, I think that's something, once again, the teams already know about. They know where he's at, and I think it's going to affect his draft stock.
Because this is someone that could have been the number one cornerback taken, and now you're seeing this stuff. Another one that could have been number one.
I'm not saying he won't be drafted. He's going to be drafted, but once again, if there's someone who's close to him in the talent evaluation side, that kid's going first over him.
I have one that also had an injury. Shavon Revel Jr., the East Carolina. He tore his ACL on September 24th. That's later on. He's hasn't ran yet, but they're saying he could be ready for later training camp. Are you worried for his first year, maybe, but long term? Okay.
Look, I don't know where he's going to get drafted, but
he's in the same line as Will Johnson. They're in the same boat. So if you want to take one or the other, what would you maybe lean towards? I guess it's the scheme fit and stuff. There's so many different questions, right?
Different things, but I think you'd have to look at the East Carolina kid. What's his name again?
Shavon Revel Jr.
Shavon Revel. As a whatever you get out of him, if anything, in year one, is a bonus. That's the way you got to look at him. And then, assuming that surgery went smoothly and not any cartilage damage, he's fine for year two. Look, I think it's hard for any corner who has to react. It's different if you're dictating where you're going, but where you have, and it's hard enough for a wide receiver who's dictating where he's going.
Right.
A DB, a corner, has to react. Very hard to do. And it's hard enough to recover from an ACL. It's hard enough to play the position of corner and react. And you're going to ask him to jump a level.
I was about to say, you always say that's the key part. Jumping a level is another, on top of that.
How did Darrelle Revis do after his ACL his first year back? Not so well.
It was not the island that you thought. Yeah.
It was not Revis Island.
Nope.
But the next year he returned to do pretty well.
And he went over the Patriots and did well too.
And did pretty well.
Yep, absolutely.
But that first year back is very difficult. And that's Darrelle Revis Island coming back, and he's already played at that level. For a East Carolina kid, it's already a tough enough jump to get to the NFL level. And then you're going to miss time rehabbing and not being 100%. I think any team that drafts him just has to look at year one is a bonus. We're drafting him for year two.
I have one final one, Doc. Offensive lineman, Ohio State's Josh Simmons. He suffered a torn patellar tendon earlier in the season last year, October. They said he's way ahead of schedule, but you've already told me already, and we posted multiple stuff on SICScore.com that we're a little cautious in his return. His pro day was in April. Didn't do too much there. Tell me your thoughts on him.
Have you ever heard of someone who's behind schedule, especially when
they're never going to say that? I mean, you said all positive, right?
Everything's all positive, right? Is there any word that our guy with the turf toe is behind schedule and hasn't run? No.
They're just saying he's not running. They're not going to say he's behind schedule. Yes. Yeah.
So this ahead of schedule. Okay, fine. But does that mean he's ready for football this fall? Not sure that he will be. Same thing. And is his right or left?
Right leg, left tackle, right leg. Yeah.
Right leg, left tackle. That's even a higher barrier.
That's his power leg, correct?
Power inside leg, where he pushes off to kick out. So it's going to affect him his rookie season. I think, once again, can he play this year? Yes. But if you're going to grade the success of him in the NFL, you got to at least give him a sophomore year to figure out what his success is. And he may be a NFI guy, same as PUP, but college injuries are considered NFI, not football related injury.
It was the left side. Apologize for left side. Right side uninfected is whatever. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Left side's a little bit better.
But
still,
I wrote this too. I got this information from you. Is why is it more difficult recovery than an isolated ACL tear? Like, what's the difference? I guess.
Well, patella tendon. When you do an ACL surgery, often you take the center part of the patella tendon. And so the patella tendon is as wide as my 3 fingers. You're removing the center portion. Okay. When you tear the patella tendon, you're tearing the entire tendon all the way across. So there's just more damage. Even the ACL is probably only as thick as my pinky finger, whereas the patella tendon is wide, broad, strong, tremendous amount of atrophy. And it's a very reliable recovery, but it's just a long one, so he'll get there.
Like you said,
draftable.
he's just like this another maybe lost first year long-term success.
Or look at him and say, later in the season he can be okay, but let's not expect a lot from him early part of the season, and just play it out that way.
And I have you quoted saying like, why show yourself at less than 100% at pro day when there's game film of you 100%, right? There's no reason. Yeah.
There's no reason to do that. And it's easy. It just says, I'm doing great. I'm ahead of schedule, but my doctor won't allow me.
Yep.
Next.
Simple as that. Yeah. All right, Doc. That wraps up the big injury concerns you had for the NFL draft. We have multiple articles coming this week too. A couple last second people were updating, so we'll get those and continue to go from there. I'm going to jump next, Doc. NBA full swing playoffs. You analyzed the Ja Morant ankle injury. Tell me your thoughts on that. What you saw?
Right ankle. He sprained it before. I mean, I retweeted a Schefter post. I mean, Ja Morant is an unbelievable athlete. I mean, that dunk, it's amazing.
Yeah. He had an incredible first half, I would say. Yeah.
Amazing. But if you really look at even that dunk,
we're talking about the putback alley-oop dunk. Yeah, when he jumped. Yeah, absolutely.
Dunk. Yeah. He jumps off of both feet. Explosive.
Yeah.
Great. Used both feet. And he landed just on his left. And if you really watch him move that game, he favored it.
Mm-hmm.
He did a great job. He played. It was a great job. He played, but clearly he wasn't 100%, and in the first half, when you're not really clamping down defense, he gets his. In the second half, when he
had 16 in the first and finished with 22. So
when it comes down to crunch time, I mean, look at poor Cooper Flagg in the NC2As. We weren't on air then, but we were privately talking. Said Cooper Flagg's ankle is nowhere near 100%. If you really go back and look at Cooper Flagg in that game where they lost to Houston, they did great.
Mm-hmm.
The other kid, Knoppel, did great.
Oh yeah, Con,
whatever.
Con Kneppel, yeah.
Con Kneppel.
Yep.
But Cooper Flagg wasn't moving like the first pick in the NBA draft.
No.
And when it came down to crunch time, Duke couldn't score because they needed Cooper Flagg.
And he couldn't get to the basket at all.
He couldn't get to the basket, and he left a couple shots short. And whether you consider that last play a foul or not a foul, if he has a healthy left ankle, he probably takes a step in there instead of reaches. I don't know. But the bottom line is he had an okay first half, and he had a less than stellar second half. And he played. He's still a really good player, but he wasn't Cooper Flagg. And if he was Cooper Flagg, they probably get past Houston instead of not scoring.
You know who matches that exact storyline too, Doc, was we weren't on air too, like you said, Johnny Broom. Remember the Auburn kid? He had his injury in that Florida game. He did well, like you said, in the first half he got his points, but second half they was shut down.
Yeah. Couldn't really get it done. And that was his right elbow UCL.
The hyperextension.
You could see he didn't want a ball handle. He didn't want to
rebounds with one hand.
Yeah. He was favoring it. I mean, I think it was this week or last week, I saw some Netflix Bad Boys, Isaiah Thomas, and I forgot. I guess he came back.
The Pistons. He
scored 25 points with an injured ankle that was all swollen, and he's limping around. He scored 25 points in one quarter and did really well, but they didn't win the series.
Nope.
It's
the spurts. They're beginning.
Great
spurts.
Players can do great things.
Yeah,
but they're still human, I guess, when it comes to crunch time and otherwise.
Last one, basketball injury I want to talk about. Also SIC Picks. We have tons of NBA content. We'll talk about MLB in a second. Is Steph Curry and his thumb. I saw there's a couple times you could see he's way off. There's so many turnovers when he's driving. last game he looked more effective than he did in a couple of maybe the rest. What are your thoughts when you're seeing on it with his thumb?
Well, I mean, ball handling is the first thing. And the more dynamic he is in getting off a shot, the harder he is to make sure he has the right grip. But he's still Steph Curry. I'm sure he's still going to hit some threes and play well.
Scored over 30 points last night and they won. So, yeah.
His ball handling and defense are going to be the main issues. And he's going to be wearing that tape job and splint for the rest of the playoffs there. And it wouldn't shock me if he ended up with an off-season procedure to make sure the ligament,
maybe a tendon damage or something. Yeah. Okay.
Ulnar ligament. It wouldn't shock me. It won't affect him next season. He's just going to have to play through right now.
One I forgot to mention that did happen this weekend. You have a lot of thoughts on is Jayson Tatum. Remember, he had a right wrist injury last playoffs. He played through it. It looks like he may have suffered a re-aggravation or some sort. Tell me your thoughts on that injury.
Well, let's
for
just
Tatum.
hope it's not a scaphoid fracture, right?
Yeah,
and hopefully there's no
worst
news
case.
of that.
Yeah,
but it's probably something he's going to be
get tape on it afterwards. Yeah,
be dealing with for sure. And then of course my poor Padres. Everyone's
about to say we had to go to baseball real quick. I do want to mention before that picks our 3-star bets are 15-4 this year, 78% plus. So that's good. Go to SIC Picks, get your baseball.
So you're saying our SIC Picks record is better than the Padres record?
Yeah, that's pretty. It's hard to do too because your record is really good. Yeah,
Padres have the best record in MLB.
They I believe they do. Yeah, let me check real quick. Tell me your thoughts on all their injuries that they're dealing with.
Last time I checked is amazing that the top 4 teams in MLB are NL West, NL West, NL West, NL West. Padres, Dodgers, Giants, Diamondbacks. That was heading into the weekend. No.
Yeah, it is. It's 16-6 is you leading, and then the Dodgers are 16-7 right behind, and then you got a couple people tied for third, including the Giants, who are also in NL West.
So it's not quite just the top 4 with the Diamondbacks anymore. But
Diamondbacks had a little losses earlier.
But anyways, yeah. Look, they've had a run of bad luck, the Padres, right?
Start with Merrill, I guess. Yeah, going to
Arráez is fine, but I don't see how he avoids 7-day IL for concussion. The hospitalization was precautionary, so
stretcher and all that.
Good.
Yeah.
But that's still the MLB protocol is if you have any quote signs of concussion, it's 7 days. So I think he's going to be 7 days.
Do you think if you just get stretchered off, it's an automatic 7 days, or just from the visual?
From an optics,
yeah, let's say yeah.
But that was a football play on a baseball diamond.
Whose fault do you think that was?
Well, since I'm an expert little league coach with my
that's
son,
what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean, that's the definition of obstruction. You got to leave the base path clear.
Yeah.
Right. I mean that's the definition. But whatever. I don't think it was intentional. I just think he was out of position. Second baseman coming to recovery and stepping, not being aware.
Yeah.
You'd like to think major leaguers could be more aware, but I think Arráez will be fine, thankfully. I mean, obviously they've got.
What about Tatis in his shoulder?
Tatis. Here's another example. After he hurt his shoulder, I said, what's going to change is he's going to keep both hands on the bat, which he has. And promptly the next day he hit a home run.
He's been hitting well.
Yeah. He just keeps his top hand on so he doesn't have all the free follow through.
Right.
But he still generates all the power. That's what he did playing through the shoulder injury a couple of years ago. So he's going to keep going. Unbelievable. I saw an unbelievable play that he made. He made kind of a sliding, diving catch. And then from his rear on the ground, he threw the first base and almost got the runner picked up.
That's been a great move, moving him out there. It seems like it's worked out very well. Yeah.
Then again, at shortstop, he'd be pretty good too. So, I mean,
yeah. It's like the Mookie Betts situation. You put him at shortstop or outfield, he's doing well either way.
Yeah. And I'm a big Padres fan. My son's a big Padres fan. I'm not, and if anything, I'm very positive about the Padres. But Jake Cronenworth, he's out.
The ribs oblique, yeah.
Which is where the oblique muscles attach into. And Jackson Merrill, I mean, look, it's been the slow drip on his information. The guy strained his hamstring going first to third on the back pick play. I saw it in real time with my son. The Padres want to control the information, which is their right. They know what he has. They're not dumb. They have good physicians and good athletic trainers. They're just choosing to release the information in the way they are. It's not realistic to strain your hamstring. Well, first of all, how realistic was it? And I know we talked about it. This is not anti-Padres. It's just looking at the situation.
It's how they manage
the kid's
it,
20 years old.
Mhm.
10 games into the season, he needed a rest day and there was no problem and everything's fine. 10 games into the season.
The youngest guy in the
The youngest
lineup.
guy in your starting lineup roster
Yeah.
needs a rest day, and he plays center field, not catcher. 10 days in the season, when 7 days in the season you had an off day for travel,
Right.
a rest day. You already had that. Clearly, and they said nothing with a hamstring, and then the next day was just tightness, nothing to see here.
10-day IL.
Then a 10-day IL, abundance of caution. And now after 10 days, he's not back. He's not.
It'd be a little aggressive, quote unquote, if they brought him back.
Yes,
So,
it's a little aggressive to bring someone back 10 days after a hamstring strain.
Right. Yeah.
3 weeks, maybe. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to stretch to 60 days. It better not.
They need him out there. Yeah. Like you
Yeah.
said, the good record they have. Last second, I want to talk to you about one situation that happened in college football. So there's a lot of the NIL that's happened the last couple of years. We had this first NIL holdout with the Tennessee quarterback, Nico Iamaleava. I'm not saying his name right at all. So he held out. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's going to happen more? Whose fault do you think it is? Do you think it's his representation or
I
the
don't
team?
know.
You know, it just seems like a very interesting situation.
I don't know. I mean, to me,
I'll put you on the spot. I just thought it was an interesting topic. Yes.
I mean, look, it's out of control. The pendulum has swung too far, right? Everyone has to.
College
agree.
basketball, they have the portal open during the tournament.
I mean,
it's crazy.
We went from you penalize people if you buy a kid a hamburger,
Right,
to the Wild West where it's transferring.
the Reggie Bush situation to this, it's just it's crazy.
Look, well, I think one of the beautiful things about rooting for a team is that you see a kid as a freshman and a sophomore, and at least you get him to a junior year before he, there's some continuity.
Right.
1 year to the next, do you really know who's in and who's out? In the end,
It's insane.
You're starting to root just for the helmet. You're not rooting for people. There's no continuity.
It's a new team every year.
I don't like it. The other thing is, I don't know the situation. Maybe he was right. I don't know. And obviously, he's going to UCLA. He's probably not going to get as much money, and
not in the SEC anymore. Yeah,
and not in the SEC. And really, where the real money is he plays well in the SECs and he gets drafted high in the NFL. Is that going to happen out of UCLA? I don't know. I think he's in a worse situation. But the thing, part of it is, especially the position of quarterback. Quarterbacks are held to a different standard. And I can see how Tennessee didn't like the holdout.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing. Now, maybe he did this and he thought there's nothing else. I would like to have seen him say, look, other people are offering me more money, or this is what I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it. How do we get there? As opposed to holdout. Now, maybe he did, and he felt like the holdout was the last thing. But I think once you get to holdout in a college situation, I think that's pretty difficult to recover. And then the coach felt like he had to make a move. I don't begrudge him for getting his money, but you have freedom to make your decision. You made it.
Yep. And you didn't like it. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
There's okay. It's not the same. I get it. But my kids I don't want to play softball anymore. I don't want to, but no, you signed up. You're going to finish the season.
Like they said it during the year.
You decide not to play next year.
Right.
You're going to finish out what you started this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wouldn't blame him for transferring next year. That's the way the rules are. But you committed here now to go. I don't know.
I think basketball, it's college. It's crazy because I was just reading about the Baylor Bears. So the transfer portal, they have 9 people left. So now there's 0 people on the Baylor Bears roster basketball. So now that you going in next year, I mean, if you're a good program, you can fill it in with good players. But it's that's crazy, right? The continuity is completely gone. Like if you develop basketball players for a couple of years, you're like, oh, yeah, 3rd year, he's a good shooting guard. You're starting to score now. You don't have that. You have to go get a scorer from another school.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to work the transfer portal. It's no longer it's not even about recruiting high school kids
No,
anymore.
yeah.
It's just the JCs and the smaller schools and say, okay, where do you want to come play for me? You're not recruiting high schoolers anymore because you can put in all the effort to recruit the high schooler, and at most you get him for 1 year. You might as well get a developed kid and know what you got, and you get him for a year. But what I don't like about it, look, I'm not against the kids getting paid. Get paid, figure out a sane system. But what I don't love is, I mean, I've said it before, you'll never have Marshall Faulk at San Diego State again because he's going to NIL transfer.
One big year he's gone.
One big year he's gone.
Yep, he's going to Alabama or
kind of thing. Good for the opportunity side, I guess, but I don't know.
Takes the parity away a little bit. Yeah.
It seems the other side didn't either. Coaches could change jobs at will, but players couldn't.
I'll say coaches hold out, but players, now it's like they both can. I get it. Yeah.
You got to find the happy medium there. Anyways, all right, thank you guys. So Taylor, we'll see a Instagram video or something.
Yep. I'll put it everywhere.
Doug just laughs. He goes, Doug
can just go at home. I don't know why he's not doing it. Apparently he does them 3 times a week. But I will do it, yes.
And you get to nominate your 3 people, and
could be Doug,
I'm out of it. Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, thanks for watching. Sorry for the hiatus. We're back full force. We're good. Could have been back sooner, but take a little
break. Yeah,
time off a little bit here, but all good here at Sports Injury Central with everyone here.
We'll have guests coming up soon as well.
Yeah, we'll start. I just have been bad just reaching out. I hate bugging people. Like I don't know.
You're a person that I feel like has so many favors that you can cash in, but you don't want. You're better than that. You're just hanging out. Yeah, exactly.
It's all good.
Yep.
All right. So enjoy the NFL draft. Enjoy the NBA playoffs here. Thanks for watching, and welcome back to the Sports Injury Central Pro Football Doc podcast. Thank you guys. Any questions? No,
it's a little light on the questions today. Yeah.
Okay. Because everyone's not watching because they said, "Oh yeah, you have."
Like, oh, he's back. We'll watch later.
We'll watch later. All right. Talk to you guys. Thanks.